All right, so stage 6, it's our new normal. It's back with us again this evening. Let's take a look at the latest efforts to increase available electricity. These include burning more diesel in our open cycle gas turbines, also on the table, keeping our old coal-fired power stations up and running a lot longer. Also, another option, buying power from Mozambique. On the management front, Eskom still doesn't have a new CEO, but the now retired COO, Jan Oberholzer, has agreed to return for a period to help steer the power utility through its worst crisis in its 100-year history. Let's discuss all of this now with energy expert Chris Yelland. Hello, Chris. Always great to chat to you. So diesel seems to be a big part of this plan. Eskom overshot its diesel budget, I think, by 3 times last year. They've got, I think, 9 billion in total for the year. They've used about 1.5 billion rand of that. Where are we going to get the money to keep all these open cycle gas turbines running? Surely there's not enough money.
Yeah, well, as you say, last year it's estimated that Eskom spent about 22 billion rand on diesel. That is about 3 times, slightly more than 3 times the budgeted amount. And it's expected that this year Eskom will spend between 30 to 40 billion rand on diesel. And you rightly ask, where does the money come from? Well, what we're hearing from the electricity minister and, of course, from the finance minister are sometimes 2 different things. From the finance minister's point of view, they are giving Eskom a bailout, significant money for this bailout, but it can only be used to repay debt. It cannot be used for operational purposes like diesel. However, by reducing Eskom's debt, it reduces certain costs, interest costs, and thereby releases money because of a reduced cost of interest. It releases money for other purposes such as diesel. So that's one option. The Minister of Electricity seems to be implying that the money is going to come from this bailout from Treasury. Well, not directly. Indirectly, I can understand it. Indirectly, as in reduced interest means more money, operational money available for Eskom. So it's not a case of that the bailout can be directly spent on diesel, according to the Minister of Finance. There are, of course, limitations to how much diesel you can burn, and not just from a financial point of view, but a logistical point of view. And that also limits the expenditure that can be expent on diesel, because there just sometimes is not enough storage capacity and the logistical problems of getting the diesel there.
A really interesting article in the Mail and Guardian talking about the electricity minister saying that one of the issues, I mean, you said that there's a number of issues around diesel, but cost is a really big one. They're planning to raise this 30 billion rand to buy diesel direct instead of going through PetroSA. And I think you've been critical of this issue around PetroSA, saying that they actually have been overcharging. Take us through that.
Yeah, look, this idea of Eskom buying direct and bypassing some of the traders, was put on the table by Andre de Ruyter to save Eskom several billion rands. But it was very roundly swept off the table by Minister Gwedi Mantashe. And he basically indicates that no, he would not allow this. They need to buy it through a trader, or they will need to get a trading license themselves. But the interesting thing, of course, is that PetroSA is a company in the Central Energy Fund stable that reports to Gwedi Mantashe. And without Eskom's business, PetroSA would not be financially sustainable, would not be a going concern. It would be in the very, very deep financial trouble. So they actually rely on the profit they get from trading of diesel to Eskom, the biggest supplier of diesel to Eskom. And they don't want to drop the price. They rely on the trading revenue. And in fact, in some of the deals last year and the beginning of this year, um, PetroSA was charging above the pump price of diesel in Cape Town. So you could fill up your car, with 50 to 80 liters of petrol
Wow.
or diesel, shall we say, at a lower price than Eskom was buying billions of rands worth of diesel. And this sort of implies that the kind of discounts that you would be entitled to as a bulk buyer were not being passed through to Eskom, but were keeping PetroSA afloat.
That's crazy. That's completely crazy. The other issue, which I think is an interesting one to explore, is that electricity minister is hoping to buy some power from Mozambique, and that could be available within 6 months. Is that through Cahora Bassa?
No, no. As I understand it, and I may be wrong, you never know what way government is thinking. There are some options to increase procurements from Cahora Bassa, I think. But I think perhaps they're referring to the possibility of a car power ship or two operating in southern Mozambique and connecting to the grid via the Matraco line, which comes from South Africa through Swaziland into southern Mozambique to supply the Mosul aluminium smelter. And there has been talk about perhaps a floating car power ship off, at Matola, which would likely burn heavy fuel oil, a very highly polluting fuel indeed. And I think that's what may be referred to, but I'm not 100% sure. Whether that can be delivered in 6 months is a moot point. I'm just not sure that that's possible. But, before South Africa and Eskom can start procuring electricity from any supplier, the Constitution requires an open, transparent bidding process. And that takes time. Just the procurement process, let alone placing the order and getting the project done and getting it connected to the grid. So I think there's still a lot of water to flow under the bridge on this. I'm not even sure if it'll ever happen. But I think 6 months sounds hell of an optimistic to me.
Yeah. So diesel looks like potentially our best bet, because that could provide 2,000 megawatts of power onto the grid, which could save us 2 stages of load shedding. All told, Chris. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to let you have a final comment on that. But all told, when you see the plans on the table to try and ease what's going to happen to us as we edge closer to winter, what's your sense?
Well, firstly, the point I was going to make was that those open cycle gas turbines of Eskom, the Eskom OCGTs, can peak at 2,000 megawatts, but they certainly cannot operate continuously, like for days or a week, delivering 2,000 megawatts. They can do it for maybe an hour or two a day, but not on a continuous basis. They cannot run at a load factor of, say, 60%, which is only 60% of 2,000. They can't run like that, for weeks or continuously. So yes, they will help alleviate peak demand up to a maximum of 2,000 megawatts, but it's not like they can reduce load shedding by 2 stages, throughout the day.
I see. So all told, if you look at the plans that are on the table, do you see any light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, not a lot in the short term. In a little bit longer term, there is some light at the end of the tunnel in December. Hopefully by then, units 1, 2, 3, and 5, that's 4 units at Kusile, will come on stream. And that is about what one can look for in terms of new generation capacity. Not that it is actually new. Units 1, 2, and 3 are not new units. They are units that are down for an extended outage as a result of a flue duct failure. But hopefully those can come back, and that's about 4 units at about 800 megawatts, 3,200. So let's just say about 3,000 megawatts between those 4 units. That is significant. That if that can come on by the end of December, that's significant. But that's not what I call short term. That's not the coming winter. So I don't see too many options on the table for coming winter.
Yeah, well, we have been warned it's going to be tough. So I was hoping for a little bit of a little glimmer of hope, but maybe only come December. So we've got about 7 months to hang in there. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening, energy expert Chris Yelland.